I'm back again with my guest, who I have the honor of chatting with today. She's an amazing woman, very talented artist, and I'll list a few of her credits, which include Janet Jackson, Kylie Minogue, La La Land, Dancing with the Stars, The Little Mermaid Live. The list goes on and on and on. But more than any credit that is on her resume, I adore her, am inspired by her, am particularly fond of her because of the light that she is. She's my friend, Yoori Kim. What kind of Asian are you?
I'm a proud Asian, okay? I am Korean American. I was born in South Korea and grew up in Hawaii most of my life. My parents got divorced when my sister and I were really young. To be honest with you, I don't even know when they got divorced because I was so young. Like one day my dad was there and then one day he wasn't. And then I think he moved to Hawaii to live with my dad's side of the family who were already residing in there. And then he came back at some point to bring my sister and I over to live in Hawaii for a better life. I left my mom at such a young age, and we've never really had I was 8.
You were 8, you moved to Hawaii. And what was that transition like for you?
It was really tough. I mean, I remember, so when I came to Hawaii, my dad wasn't, I'm thinking financially, he wasn't able to raise my sister and I. We grew up with his older sister, our aunt, and her husband, who was German American. And so we grew up with them, with my grandma was there and my cousin in a very Americanized household. Because you don't know why you had to leave the country you knew and come to a whole different country. You kind of have like an abandonment feel from your mom. You just don't know why. You know, I just kind of felt like she didn't want to be with us anymore. So then there was that part of it. And then I felt like my dad wasn't really going to be there for us. And then, you know, having to live with my aunt, who was so scary. You know, it's a traumatic thing. I think subconsciously I kind of forced myself to kind of forget who I was and where I grew up in order to fit in.
How did you start doing what you're doing, and what would you call yourself?
I would call myself an artist. I love being creative, and you know, there are so many different ways to be creative. I am very fortunate and blessed to be able to say that I make a living dancing, singing, and acting, but I also love doing makeup and I love cooking. And you know, there's so much creativity in everyday life activities. I remember wanting to be a singer as long as I can remember. And I would record myself singing on a cassette tape every day and made a demo tape in my cassette tapes in my room. I would write to record companies and I would send it to them with a handwritten letter asking them to sign me as an artist. I was 10 years old. I went to a high school, James B. Castle High School, where they have a really huge performing arts program. I auditioned one day for one of the musicals and I got it, and that was it. Like, I fell in love.
What is your first experience, first memory, a defining moment of racism?
I've never really experienced anything traumatic firsthand, but there are always, you know, those strangers yelling out like something in Japanese or something in Chinese to you that you don't even know. And I get those too, like, you look Chinese, you're Chinese. I'm like, no, I'm Korean. Until I moved here and I started, you know, digging deeper into my career and auditioning and being able to be a part of different jobs and not getting different jobs because of my race, my eyes were definitely open. A lot of the times I was the token Asian on a job, or if there was a job that I wanted to be a part of, but I knew that there was an Asian already booked, then I knew I wouldn't get a chance.
I recently read Minor Feelings by Kathy Park Hong, and she says, racial trauma is not a competitive sport. So it's like my first instinct when I talk about any kind of racism I experienced is definitely to be like, I don't think I really experienced racism because I had a really good childhood. I had, like those, that's like one level of it. But I also am learning about myself specifically that I just downplay shit because there is a level of pain and not wanting to go there because, it's just easier if you just don't make it a big deal. And I learned that somewhere. I learned that from something.
I remember I was a really loud and like obnoxious kid. I was a handful. But when I moved here or to Hawaii, I remember wanting to be quiet so that I wouldn't stand out. Because if I did, then I was afraid that I would get made fun of for something. So, I remember always being in the back, and my personality over time was, more introverted and shy. And it's not even that I was shy. I just forced myself to be silent.
How do you think your racial identity has played a role maybe in the past versus the present?
As an actor, it is very cool now that I am getting more opportunities as a Korean American actor and not just an Asian girl, number one, and before I think I would have shied away. I did shy away from a lot of Korean roles. I don't really know about Korea. I visited Korea maybe twice my whole life after moving. I don't know a lot of Korean people in my life. I was never really close to my family, so I never really felt this like sense of ownership of who I am as a Korean American artist. But now I try to make it a point to learn if I don't know something, trying my best to speak Korean, ask for help. And I want to dig deeper into who I was back then.
You had a quote on your Instagram. It said, "Your trauma is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility."
Absolutely. Growing up, like I said, I was so shut down, not feeling like I belonged anywhere. I didn't feel like I belonged in Korea. I didn't feel like I belonged really in Hawaii because I just didn't know who I was. The more I share, the more, others can hopefully maybe feel a sense of belonging somewhere or at ease with who they are. And so I think it's my responsibility now to really try, and even if it feels uncomfortable, to try to dig deeper into who I am as a Korean American.
What has been one of the highlights of your career so far?
I think the older I get, I approach the opportunities that I get in my career as just what is the word I'm looking for? A tool to really get to the main focus, which is like human connection. I've had incredible, opportunities to dance for different artists and go many places. But at the end of the day, when I look back, it's like, what did I gain from that is relationships, like people that are just going to be in my life for the rest of my life.